Yeah, if I can kick off by just again welcoming everyone. This is our 7th AMA, and appreciate everyone being here, spending the time listening to us. Hopefully, we'll be able to share some useful information that everyone's looking for. As usual, I've got more of probably the mundane side of it, and then Nick's going to share some more interesting stuff with you. So he'll present after myself. So I'm going to kick off with that. I think we've got a lot of people that have joined. So, and I'm not going to dwell too long on each of these. This is the agenda. So just starting with licensing. So there was a notice that was sent out by the Seychelles regulator, which obviously people picked up on. We weren't quick enough to pick up that it went out, otherwise we would have preempted that. We did send out a statement after that, just to let everyone know that we were aware and we are aware of the changes in the regulatory regimes in all the jurisdictions. We work with our lawyers in terms of that. And I have mentioned in previous AMA as well that we're looking at, or that we have started a process of evaluating and then restructuring. Unfortunately, we haven't concluded that, although most of the entities are in place, and hence we haven't actually announced exactly what the details are. As soon as that is complete, we will announce it. But that's why we didn't go ahead with the licensing application through Seychelles. And without going into detail, but we reassessed the whole situation. This was actually before the end of last year, sort of September, October. We looked at it from a perspective of the US. Obviously, the US has become more favorable to crypto in general, which we appreciate. So we're a little bit less nervous about the SEC, but one can't be too careful or too laissez-faire. So we need to still be cognizant of that. So the structure that we're moving to allows us to sell quite confidently into various parts of the world. And if you want to break it down, there's the US, there's Europe, and then there's mostly the rest of the world. Those are the sort of three areas that we looked at from an advisory perspective in terms of the lawyers. And they gave us a roadmap in terms of how best to structure ourselves to address those, and also to isolate any issues that may come up, for instance, as something out of the US. So we've achieved, I think that the structure that we're putting in place achieves all of that. It goes far beyond what we have in place currently, so it's definitely an improvement. It keeps us ahead of the game. It's not that we're trying to avoid the regulations from Seychelles. I mean, they've brought in good regulations, Europe as well. But what we are trying to avoid is onerous KYC and other regulations that might apply to us, even retrospectively. So we took advice around that to keep sort of light touch in terms of the sales process. And that's how we've arrived at the structure that we're moving forward with. As I said earlier, we will make that public as soon as we complete with it, but rest assured that we're almost there and that there's no need for concern or worry. Moving on to the audits. So a lot of you, if you've been in previous AMAs, we started actually towards the end of last year. It seems like a long time ago and a long process. We started an audit after our alpha testnet. The two parties that we used were Halborn and Certec, both very reputable. They've been good to work with, both of them. They've got different approaches. They looked at different things. They prioritized different things. So it's obviously good to have more than one party. Halborn, we managed to finish a lot quicker, and that's been in place for quite some time. I forget the exact date. So just looking on the left there, Halborn, our alpha testnet, we had the audit done on the vesting smart contract, and that was completed. And I would say pass, but there's never sort of a pass-fail. It's a level of pass, but we covered all the things, and it was and everything was green ticked. That was important. The next one is our beta testnet, and it's not going to be the current testnet, but the following one we would pass through an audit. But it's not just the vesting contract. that'll be an audit of the full blockchain. So it goes down to architecture, security, all the tools that link into it, any vulnerabilities, any hosts, any infrastructure that we're hosting, RPC nodes, all of those sort of things, that it'll uncover the full project. And the reason we're not doing it right now is for the next testnet, there are quite a few fundamental changes in the architecture, well, not so much the architecture, but in the underlying blockchain. So there's no point in doing that right now and then coming back and having to redo it. So that's in the progress. Sorry, that's in the planning stage. And then obviously we'll redo that for the final testnet, depending on the timing and depending on what changes happen between that audit and the next one. In parallel, Certec Alpha 1 testnet is, and I've put here completed, and that was just because I was hoping the website would actually have reflected. It hasn't yet. I'll show you on another page where things are, and I'll also explain the delay itself. In terms of next step there, we're going to go through team verification. It's been done on myself, but the rest of the team will pass through that as well, which obviously is good from a visibility perspective. It's the sort of thing that needs to be shown on their portal. And then final testnet, there's a question of whether they also do a full audit or whether we concentrate on the smart contracts in terms of what they do. In a perfect world, we'd have both of them doing full audits, but it's particularly onerous on us on the team, so we'll make that decision closer to the time. This is, if it comes up, so this you won't see public yet, but this is after virtually, I think this morning, the final changes that should be in here. So this lists all the different levels of vulnerabilities they picked up, right from sort of critical all the way down to discussion points, and then also quite a difficult one, the level of centralization that's inherent in the project, and that sort of becomes quite subjective as well. But anyway, so if we look at this, we have, according to them, as of this one, which is, as I said before the final changes, there was an acknowledged level of centralization. If you look at all the other issues that they picked up, they've all been addressed and resolved, so those are all dealt with. The level of centralization effectively came from the fact that when you deploy a contract on a blockchain, as an administrator, there is a single person who typically is that administrator, and then they have effectively overarching power over that. So whatever else you have in place, the administrator, like most systems, can come in and do nefarious things as a single person, which obviously leads to centralization in terms of power. So we have been implementing an MPC platform called Fortify, which brings in multi-signatures and various signing profiles and signing rules. And the challenge that we had was to get our vesting contracts to be deployed through Fortify. So that took a bit of work in terms of the implementation of Fortify and to allow us to actually deploy those contracts. So we managed to deploy that. Then Certec had to verify that they had been deployed, and it then went from single signature to a multi-signature scenario. So they've acknowledged that that's all been completed. I'm hoping the next few days it reflects on the website. Moving on to the beta testnet. So the beta testnet, I mean, we're very happy with how it's gone. As in any beta software, including beta testnets, the reason to get it out there is to actually uncover issues, uncover bugs, etc. We have unfortunately uncovered some things. Actually, let me just go through the overview quickly, just as a quick refresher before I go through that. So it's a completely new beta testnet, so it doesn't inherit any of the old transactions that were on it or anything else. So it was a refresh. There are currently 34 nodes, and I think roughly half of them are ours, and the other half are being run by the community. And then over time, that will pick up. We're expecting that, like the previous testnet, we hit, I think we hit somewhere close to 200. So we're hoping that that'll happen over time. It's faster than the alpha testnet, theoretical transactions per second of over 800. And I know there are chains out that talk about 10,000 and 100,000 and all the rest. We're not there yet. We're in beta testnet. We're at 800,000, 800 transactions per second, not 800,000 transactions per second. That would be phenomenal. Our stated goal for launch is 2,000 transactions or more. So we're very happy that we're on the right path, and we'll get there. And hope to exceed that. And then most of the changes are actually related to the Explorer and the peripheral tools around that, and what you could see and what you could do, and not so much the blockchain itself. Just getting back to actually how it went. So we launched on time. We were pretty happy with how the team pulled together. A lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily see that I'm happy we did as a team, and we did it well. Our documentation is good. We've got a lot of other stuff that we didn't have previously. Technically, we did have an issue, and it didn't. And as much as we thought we'd done a lot of testing beforehand, it only actually appeared once we had sufficient nodes, and it was sort of an exponential issue with memory and memory leaks, and it wasn't really apparent it just wasn't apparent in the testing. We've learned quite a bit from that. It shows where our testing was deficient and where we have to improve on it. So it's all useful. Because of that, we only got partway through deploying the vesting contract. I'm not sure if it has been, but it'll be rolled back, and we will redeploy that once we're happy that the network is sufficiently stable. So we talked about getting that available for launch, but that's not the case yet. We're busy launching a patched node as well, or a new version of the node, which will be, obviously we're hoping everyone will push that out, and that'll fix the instability issues that we've detected. Just to touch again on the vesting side, I mean, I'm quite disappointed that we haven't got to this yet, because this was one of the parts that was sort of the more exciting part, was to say, well, we're now pushing out our vesting contract. It's sort of an early stage mini copy of what we're going to be doing when we go live. So it's pretty important for us. And the whole idea is that every investor of ours that we have will get 10,000 testnet tokens. They'll be locked up in the vesting contract, and they will be vested on an accelerated ratio of 40% immediately, and then 20% per week thereafter. So you'll recognize that's very similar to our launch vesting and unlock process. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet, just because we haven't finalized that deployment. The other thing, which is, again, just a reminder, and it is in place, but it becomes probably more relevant once the airdrop's been done, is we have incentives in place: top 10 most active wallets, top 10 miners in terms of coins mined, and then the top largest wallets as well. In total, there'll be 30 prizes of $2,000 worth of BDAG tokens. So that's just a thank you to the people that do put effort in. We're hoping that, and already we're seeing a lot of transactions, so we appreciate all the effort you'll put into testing it. We have obviously support channels in place if you do pick up issues, so please log any issues you come across. Moving on. So the Tap Miner. So just a bit of history and context to this before I go into sort of where things are. So we started the Tap Miner as a typical Telegram tap game. Falling bubbles, tap them, earn points, etc. Depending on the bubble size and color, you earn different points. And we quite carefully worked out the tokenomics of it, so it gave you sort of a small but reasonable little return every time you played. Then we added in, and to mention here, this game was developed by a third party. That's their business, so we've relied quite heavily on them. I mean, what we didn't want to do is defocus our team in terms of the tap game. Our team is very focused, obviously, on the blockchain and the tools around that. So this has been developed by a third-party company who specializes in tap games, and have launched other successful games, tap games, very successfully. The objective from our side, quite simple: grow the community in terms of the referrals and all those sort of things in there, and then drive sales in terms of our BDAG token. And those are the two primary ones. Obviously, it gives people some fun as well, and there's an opportunity for people to earn some money as well. But the objectives from our side were community growth and sales, and just eyes on the project. I mean, that's always important for us. Again, in terms of the context, so through this and through the promotions, etc., we raised 3.8 million as part of the promotions that were driven by the Tap Miner. So, I mean, it's a nice number, but in the scheme of things, it's not a massive number. But we were more than happy with that in the context of the type of game it was and what we were trying to achieve. 370,000 registered users. I mean, that was great. A lot of eyes on it. Obviously, not everyone's active. Just to give you some sense of active, as in strongly active users, not just people who play occasionally, but people who put a bit of effort into it. 10,000 users with more than 5 million tap points. Something to make quite clear, and this obviously leads into the next set of slides, is the spins were never sold. No one ever bought spins. They were always given away as a free reward as part of someone or as part of the community buying BDAGs. And besides buying BDAGs, also participating in whatever bonus was around at the time. So people received the original BDAGs they bought, plus the bonuses, and then plus whatever spins were part of the promotion. So we were really using it as a free way to promote the Tap Miner. What happened, and I mean, again, we need to take responsibility for this, not necessarily having the eye on the ball sufficiently and relying on third parties to run it and promote it and come up with clever mechanisms and means, etc., which we weren't close enough to, and we just didn't. We dropped the ball. So the issues were the number of tap points earned. I mean, massive numbers you would have seen from the leaderboard. Uncertainty around the conversion ratio. So a little bit of history around that. When we first created the game and the original actual tap game, we went out with a 200-to-1 ratio, and that made sense because we'd done all the right tokenomics. When the third party launched these other games, that ratio was removed because it became apparent that with all these different games and the roulette and things like that and the types of rewards that could be earned, people could earn a lot more than was initially envisaged. We did a poor job of communicating that. It was left, people sat with obviously potentially expectations of the 200-to-1. So that left uncertainty around that. In the last AMA, I talked about a vesting period because of this large number of tokens. We said, well, what do we do with this? And we talked about a vesting period a lockup period of 5 years with a linear vesting after that of 3 years. We obviously had a lot of feedback from everyone, not necessarily very positive. Actually, some of it was positive. The community felt that from a project perspective, it was a way to protect the project from an unnecessarily large dump of tap points coming into the market. So we got a lot of positive feedback from the community, but obviously we got a lot of negative feedback from people who earned tap points and now felt that we were marginalizing to the point where we're saying you're going to take between 5 and 8 years to actually get hold of these points. So quite contrasting feedback depending on which side of the fence you were sitting. A lot of people obviously sitting on both sides with some tap points, but obviously an interest in the project had more muted sort of feedback. And then the last one was the double or nothing game. And that reared its head when people started posting tap points in the multi-trillions. And that obviously got everyone very excited, including myself when we saw this. And we thought, well, obviously now there's a catastrophic issue here. We jumped in. We blocked the game very quickly, stopped the game very quickly, because we first needed to just cauterize the actual problem without necessarily understanding it yet. What did happen, unfortunately, is as part of that, initially all the spins and the roulettes and stuff, those games were removed, and with the removal of that, all the spins and etc. that people hadn't spent was also removed, and that was just as a result of doing it quickly. That was a byproduct of a system that when you took the one out, it removed the other. So we then reinstated those, so they were put back. And that gave us a bit of time to then analyze what went wrong. So this is us being transparent. I mean, this was never meant to be sort of a way for people to be enriched beyond any expectation. This is an example. Well, this is the top 10 people. And you can see here the balance in trillions, 2,300 trillion tap points. It dropped off very quickly, and after this, it drops off even quicker. So obviously, the issues and the people that found them and abused it and climbed in, there are not a lot of people that picked it up, and the ones that did were very active in manipulating this. And I'm not saying in a necessarily a hacking way, but they saw obviously a flaw in the system, and they really went to town on it. So anyway, I mean, it's effectively what I'd say is a small error, but with a massive result. And as far as we understand it, and we're just unpacking the real issue behind it, but effectively, simplistically, instead of it being a 50-50 game, which a double or nothing game would be, where everyone is sort of 50-50 and it's a game of pure chance, it ended up a game of 2-1. So every time you played, you had a far better chance of winning, and that's effectively what happened. And there are terms in law called unjust enrichment. It applies to a lot of things. It's an very old law, and only applies probably in certain countries. So I'm not saying we're looking at this from a legal perspective, but the precedent is when things like this happen, people are unjustly enriched through no fault of ours or direct intent of ours, and no sort of activity on their sides besides just finding a loophole. So based off that and the fact that we have to protect the community, our plan is to just reverse all the double or nothing transactions. It's that simple. We're not going to go in and try and figure out who should have got some because they didn't abuse it. It's just that game was flawed, and we just need to remove that. It was only active for, I think, probably 2 weeks, so it's not a big thing. It's a big thing in terms of the quantity, but we need to just unfortunately remove that. Further to that, and it's not actually in a slide, but we're now looking at what do we do with the tap points, given that there are a lot more tap points than we ever envisaged, and the question around the lockup period that everyone feels is too long, and the fact that the conversion ratio is also unclear. So the premise that we're taking is that points earned early on, when there was a clear 200-to-1 ratio, and where people were playing the game simplistically and earning a couple of dollars a day sort of thing, the 200-to-1 is a fair ratio. As these other mechanisms came in, and after we removed the 200-to-1, and people started earning massive numbers, often using bots that were clicking, etc., and all effectively from something that was given away for free and never paid for. What we do need to do is reduce those, and the higher the balance, the more those need to be reduced. So we don't want to prejudice the small guys that earned a couple of dollars, but the bigger guys that really went to town on this, we have to trim that down. And we also have an allocation that's reasonable to give to the tap miner. I mean, we all know the project has a 50 billion pre-sale allocation. It doesn't make sense to give half of that, and I'm just using that as an example, half of that away to the tap miner. It was never that valuable to the project, and it would be unfair to all our investors who've paid money. So what we will come back with, and the intention was to do it now, but it's a lot of data which we needed to get from the tap miner. We're now sifting through it. You can imagine the number of transactions, the number of users, 370,000 users with thousands of transactions. It's been quite a difficult process to analyze that. So rather than rushing to giving you a solution now, which maybe then has to change, it's going to be a solution which involves deciding and giving a certain number of tap points that we're allocating to the tap miner, and then allocating a range of conversions based on the size of each account. We're going to go through all the numbers, and we're doing what's best for the project at the end of the day. I mean, we need to protect that. We're recognizing that people feel that there's value in the tap points, and they will get that value, but it's not going to be crazy numbers, and so people need to be reasonable that it was a free initiative, and we're trying to do the best we can in terms of how we reward everyone without prejudicing the rest of the project. So we just need a bit more time to come up with the right solution for that is fair to everyone as much as possible. The golden ticket, there was a golden ticket promotion a while ago, and there's another one going at the moment. There's just been uncertainty around how that works and whether if someone gets the golden ticket, whether that applies to all of their points that they've ever bought. And that's not the case. So it's quite clear if you buy under the golden ticket, it's only those BDAGs that you buy as part of that'll form part of the golden ticket and that you will receive early. There's questions around how early people get that. And the reason we can't answer that right now is there are quite a few factors that come into it. It's technically the vesting contracts need to be able to deliver these sort of things. So we need to look technically what we need to do. The exchanges also have rules in terms of how you manage these things. So we just need to make sure that however that's done gets the blessing of probably the bigger exchanges that we've started talking to, because they're going to have more specific rules. The smaller guys, the tier 3s, probably don't really care that much. But they certainly, the bigger guys will have rules around us so-called, how we handle that process as we list and making sure that we do it properly. So in terms of the miners, I mean, the feedback from the last session stands. I'm not going to rehash it. If anyone wants to know what it was, you can go and have a look at it. We are still progressing very well with the manufacturer that we are now dealing with. Now that we've gone to we moved away from our first one, and we're now on our second option. They've proven to be the right partner, we believe. We're deep in the technical analysis. We've got prototypes that we're busy testing. So that's all going very well. We have because a lot of people who bought multiple miners are asking for some specifications so they can plan whether it's a mining farm or even just their home supply. We've held back because we don't want to give false information or incorrect information. But in the next week or so, we should be able to send out the specification at least, and maybe even pictures of those, as we're becoming more confident that these are the right miners that we are going to be shipping. Other than that, in terms of the timescales, etc., lead times, nothing's changed from the previous AMA. We're still planning to do an initial shipment to early testers. So people running nodes can apply to be an early tester, and as soon as we're able to, we'll send that out because it's important to do some testing before we do large-scale deployments. And obviously, bearing in mind that you can't mine anything until the network goes live, so you're not losing out on any mining opportunities at this stage. In terms of the X10, again, what was presented last AMA still stands. Prototypes are happening. That's going very well. That's something we are building almost from scratch. So it's a complicated project. Again, we've got a good manufacturer that we're working with there. Different to the ASICs because it's not an ASIC. It's at the end of the day an engagement miner. The good news is, Nick, if you are able to, I think Nick's got something to show you. I'm hoping that he's able to do that. So Nick,
I am indeed. Sorry, I am indeed. If you can see here, guys, I've got the miner running, and it's connected to my phone. So sorry, there's a little bit of a glare here. If you guys can see, very exciting. I have the miner running. It's currently obviously running on the testnet, and as you can see here, a really awesome device running off my phone, if you can see, and
so Nick,
yeah, very, very, very exciting. I just want to
just
turn
hold,
my I want to
yeah,
turn
you,
the I want
I
to
think
turn that off. Hold on, because there
you're moving a
seems
little
to
bit
be
quick for the camera.
yeah, I was moving a little bit too quick for the camera, and I was actually just trying to turn off the blur, but I'll rather hold it straight in place. Here, if you can see, you currently see I'm mining at the moment. This is obviously mining on, I've got it all set up, and then at the same time, I've set up it through my phone. So if you can see, here we go. We've got these devices in the office. We're obviously just going through the final testing thereof. So very, very exciting. And they arrived today, which is really awesome. So we were able to have them all in the office running. So I was very, very chuffed. Very chuffed.
That's very cool. So just as an engineer, I'm going to dampen the marketing enthusiasm. So it's what I'd call in sort of a mid-level prototype. It's not the final. So in terms of the housing, you couldn't really see, and we will send out a video because with the blur on the camera, it didn't really show very well. But
yeah, it seems to be a bit blurry. I'm not too sure. Yeah. What I'll do tomorrow is everybody that's on this call, I'm actually doing another CMO update live. So, questions, clarifications over the next few days. And Antony, what I'll do is make sure that these are sharper images. Everyone's been working so hard behind the scenes just to get this, incredible tech up and running. And, here it is. You can see it's tethered to my computer for power. And at the same time, I've tethered it to my phone. So really awesome stuff. So, amazing step forward.
Yeah, no, that's great. So the end version will have an aluminium back case. So that is an aluminium. So those will be made up for us. It's also slightly bigger from a depth perspective, but otherwise the form factor is the same. It's round. It looks very cool. And yeah, it's going well. There's still quite a bit of testing. One of the questions a lot of people have asked is, for people who bought multiple of those, how many X1s do they need? Multiple of those can connect to a single X1, so you don't need to be running sort of multiple X1s. And it's a fairly simple pairing process using a combination of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. And once it's paired, you don't have to keep them connected as long as it remains on Wi-Fi. And as long as you are mining through your X1, which is effectively the driver that you use to communicate with it, then it will mine and you'll get the benefit of that. Still got a lot of work to do. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to at least show you a device that's more than just concept. So anyway, so Nick will send something out in the next day or so, a better video on that. Okay, just going, and I think that. Okay. I was about to say that's all I was going to cover, but I think the exciting one, which everyone's obviously has heard about and then haven't heard anything more, so they're probably wondering where's this gone and what's happening, etc. So the early investor bonus. So we talked about this in the previous AMA. The context behind this, for anyone who wasn't in that, is let me take a step back. So the bonuses that came about were, so a project like this, one of the important things, or what gives us value, is our community base, the investment we take in, and the fact that momentum continues. So I mean, and we've got, I mean, we've raised a lot of money. We've got a fantastically large investment base, and we've got a fantastic community as well, which include all the social media channels, plus the Tap Miner, plus the X1, all of those sort of things. So I mean, we're very fortunate in the position we're in. But what we didn't want to have as the market conditions became more challenging, we needed to keep the momentum in terms of sales. And that's where we started using the bonuses as a leverage tool to keep the momentum going. And it's worked very well for us. Obviously, the side effect of that is that the people who bought early feel, rightly so, that they bought at a price which now, if they'd waited, they would have got a better deal, basically. I mean, it's as simple as that. So and it's been, I mean, the community's been talking about it for a while, and they're not wrong in that. We just needed to find a way of redressing this, which is fair, but always making sure that we take tokenomics into account, and always making sure that we take the broader project into account. I mean, we can't do anything to the detriment of the project. So what we've come up with is the 150% bonus. This will be paid to everyone who bought early on before the bonuses started. So everyone gets 150% bonus on all of the purchases, excluding any bonuses that you've already received. So if you have purchased and you received 150% bonus, then unfortunately you don't get a bonus. If you've got 50% on a purchase, then you'll get 100%, etc. So it's a way for us to say that we appreciate the early investors. You took a leap of faith on us, certainly when we didn't have a lot to show except good ideas and lots of marketing and nice graphics and nice roadmaps. We now can start showing you things like the X10, all of these good things. So over time, the risk around investing in this sort of project has reduced. The later investors haven't taken as much risk. So those early investors took a risk, and we need to make sure that they looked after. So we believe this is the way we can do it. A lot of people did send in alternative ways of doing it. Some of them more complicated, some quite similar to this, actually. Appreciate everyone's thoughts on that. We thought we need to keep it simple. The first investors, as in stage one or batch one, did get a price that was a lot lower than the others. So within those early investors, there was already a mechanism that treated the earliest investor very well. So we're not trying to readdress it sort of at multiple dates. It was really sort of everyone who was pre the bonuses we felt needed some mechanism so that they could catch up on what they'd missed out on. And I think, and we're happy that this provides that. We are busy running scripts as we speak. It's, again, a big project, and we can't run it too fast because it brings the database down, 100 and whatever thousand investors. So that's running. I'm not sure when it'll reflect, but it'll reflect possibly tomorrow morning, otherwise over the weekend. It depends on how fast our tech team run that. But just to say, it's happening, and you will see it in place in the next couple of days maximum. So yeah, we're happy we can do this, and it's just a big thanks from us to all of you for believing us and supporting us and still supporting us. And I think that's all from my side. So Nick, over to you if you want to share anything on the marketing side. Okay, we seem to have lost Nick. We just give him a moment to come back. Otherwise, we might have to go to Q&A and then come back to Nick. Let me just see if he rejoins. Nick? Okay, I think he's rejoining. Let's just give him a moment. Okay, I'm sure he's going to come back, but let me open up to the questions, and then once Nick joins again, then we can give him a chance to give you guys some feedback.
Antony, can everyone hear me?
Great. Okay, Nick, you're back.
No, I don't know. I've been there's just been intermittent connectivity here. I'm actually on my phone now. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear us today. I'm actually quite excited. And Antony, what's been really incredible is that we've been having a number of events behind the scenes. I don't know if everyone got to see us, host our first event in Cape Town. We managed to attract quite a large audience of roughly around 200 plus delegates that attended a live session. It took place over a live panel. There have been some updates on LinkedIn and on our social channels. Very robust panel that we had, discussing obviously the future of layer one, what we bring to the table from a technology perspective, and then obviously a use of our solution from a DAG point of view. And very robust discussion, and we left it very, very positive, made some incredible connections. And so that's one of many that we're going to be sponsoring now on a monthly basis. We're actually also going to be traveling from this weekend. We're going to be arriving in Panama, and Anthony, I don't know if this has obviously had a resonance with the teams yet, but roughly 532 or 536 developer communities are going to be attending Hacker Earth's initiative with ourselves over the next 2 days, from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we're going to be on the ground there. So that's a big plus for us from a development perspective, where we're going to be building out a number of various D applications and the like over those 2 days. So I'm very excited about that. We're also going to be making quite a big splash. We've got a few announcements, Antony and myself, and a few others of us that are going to be on the ground. We've got a series of daily podcasts live from studio. So we're going to be giving you the latest and the greatest from the ETH Canal event. So look out for that. We will also be streaming that to our YouTube channels to build momentum. But then I'm also going to incorporate that into the daily CMO talk. So if you haven't seen that daily CMO talk yet, I would certainly encourage you to click through the website and find that daily video vlog that I'm working on at this point in time. And then we're traveling through to Dubai for Token 2049. We do have a sponsorship of the food court. So if you are around and if you are in the Dubai region or the Emirate region, please come and say hi to us. Antony and I will be on the ground along with a number of colleagues that you don't normally get to see behind the scenes. So really looking forward to that and catching up. So as we've been saying all along, we've pushed forward the momentum of direct communication, specifically through our ambassadors, our grant program, and our hackathons, and now through our events. And you'll notice that I'm putting out a lot more content that we can have these one-on-ones. So if there are any questions that relate to tonight's session, if you want clarification, please include them in the chat function. As you know, I'm sure you're well versed with that. And from tomorrow, I'll be back in studio and I'll be able to answer and give you clarification on all of this. So really looking forward to that, that we are traveling. We're going to be on the ground. We've got a whole series of additional engagements planned right up until Singapore, Token 2049 in Singapore. So quite an exciting time ahead. So if there are these questions that are coming through over this period, I'll be in studio again. As you've seen, question answer with me on camera, directly answering these questions on a one-on-one basis. So really looking forward to engaging with you guys that are on the ground. Please come and check us out, and or hit me up through the social channels or on LinkedIn. Gladly meet up either in Panama or in Dubai or in Singapore. So thank you so much, everybody. And I'll also follow up with a proper overview of the miner, as we've got a few of these now in the office, and just answer your questions pertaining to them. Thanks so much.
Great, thanks. Yeah, thanks very much, Nick. Yeah, I mean, as Nick said, we're going to be doing a bit of traveling. I never expected to be going to Panama. It's not something that a South African thinks of as a holiday or other destination. So, I mean, that's certainly going to be interesting. What I have realized, and that's maybe why no one goes to Panama from South Africa, is it's very difficult to get there. You either go via the US, but then you need a US visa, which Nick had time to apply for. Otherwise, you go via Europe and you spend 32 hours on the plane the one way and then 49 hours on the way back. So we've got a lot of flying time to look forward to.
That we have. That we have.
But otherwise, yeah, super excited about all of that. As Nick said, some good announcements, a lot of fantastic stuff that Nick's going to be doing in terms of projecting all of this out to the community through various social channels and videos. And then, yeah, certainly in Dubai, if anyone's there, we'd love you to come and say hi. Hopefully we'll have some swag there and a few other things. And yeah, look for us at the what they call the barbecue pit.
The barbecue pits.
The braai pit. Maybe barbecue sounds a little bit more eloquent. Anyway, so that's our activities in the next 2 weeks. I think, yeah, Nick, we can go through. I've been, while you were talking, I was picking out some questions that we can answer.
Okay, cool.
In the public section, and people are upvoting them as well. It's a better approach than we did previously, so people can at least vote for the important ones. I'll go through some, and you can also pick some as well.
Awesome.
Can you explain again how the conversion rate is going to work for the Tap Miner points? So, as I said, we have a lot of people who've mined just a few points and a couple of dollars a day, and that was done at the time when the 200-to-1 ratio was still in our FAQs, and we planned for that. And those people we don't want to prejudice, so the likelihood is that they will retain the 200. But for the balances as they get higher, and it's a bit like a tax table, your first X number of points will be at 200-to-1, the next Y points will be at a higher ratio, etc., etc. So there's effectively diminishing returns that people get as the quantum of tap points that they hold as that goes up. And we felt that was the fairest approach, given that this was always a free initiative that people haven't paid for, and we need to make it viable for the project as well and not compromise everyone else who isn't part of the Tap Miner. The exact mechanism, as in what those cutoff criteria will be, etc., we're just doing the maths, and we'll make that public before we apply it. And then also I mentioned we need to make sure that this fits in with a reasonable allocation of BDAGs. So we can't be giving 50 billion BDAGs to the Tap Miner. That would just be crazy. So there'll be a certain allocation made available. The launch date, it's a bit of a hot potato, and the reason why we can't just set a launch date, and I've been purposely a little bit vague, is right now we've got a lot to deliver on from a tech perspective. So it's all very well setting a date and then not being ready from a tech perspective. We've communicated a few times vaguely when it's going to be, and that was after summer, so call it towards the end of the year, around and about Token 2049 Singapore. I mean, that's a particularly big event, and we'd like to be linking to that, but it does depend on our technical readiness. We obviously have to have a final test net in place that performs well, and we perform bug bounties on, we do all our audits on, and we are comfortable that is robust enough to go live on. So that gives you an idea, and we can't give you closer dates than that. And I don't think it necessarily should make that much of a difference. It gives you a sense for when it is, but it is this year.
If there's any questions pertaining to...
Sorry, just to finish that, obviously we need to be cognizant of the market conditions as well. If we get to that time of the year and the market is not just sort of flat where we are now, but in a massive decline, we'd also be silly to launch then. So I mean, we need to take that into account, because it wouldn't be prudent to launch just because we said we'd launch in a rapidly declining market. I mean, that would just be almost suicide. Sorry, Nick?
No, I was just picking up on some questions there. Sorry for the delay on the line. Certainly, any of these questions I see, they've been voted up specifically around, how many miners can I connect to an X1 so that they don't buy too many. I think these are very good questions, Antony, and I think what I should do tomorrow is just answer them in my CMO talk. I think that would be the best, so we can just infer specifically if someone's got 5 or 6 extends, I think it's prudent to answer the questions, not to deflect, but just to answer them in a meaningful way, to say, if you have this many, this is how you can connect. This is the power that they will generate. So, Matthew, great question. I think I'll answer that in the CMO talk tomorrow, because I can refer to my colleagues behind the scenes, and I'll come back to you with those answers. And then there's another question here pertaining to wallet connect functionality, or you don't have access to your MetaMask wallet or your Trust wallet that you've connected with. And do you want to take this one just on that, or do we just flick that through to support? I think that looks like a support query.
No.
Yes.
So let me. I mean, this is an ongoing issue that comes up, and it's just the nature of being in crypto. But people are for various reasons, not necessarily hacked, but they lose their keys or lose access, or are concerned that other people have access, or they socially engineered to give away their key, their seed phrases, etc. So there are quite a few people who feel that they want to change wallets, and I've said this quite a few times, but I'll just elaborate again why we can't do it right now. So if someone contacts us and say they've got a compromised wallet, can we change it to another wallet? We have no way of knowing whether we're talking to the bona fide owner of the BDAGs, or potentially the scammer or the fraudster that took it over. So without being able to verify it, we'd be doing worse or more damage if we actually help them move those funds or move the wallet. So right now, until we have a process where we can with certainty identify that we're talking to the right person, we just can't do that. It's not that we don't want to, it's not that we don't sympathize and we don't want to help. I mean, that's certainly the case, but as in the case that we want to help everyone, but we can't do it until we've got a mechanism where we can be 100% certain. And that was also the feedback from our lawyers, as well as we can't get involved in something else unless we're very certain that we're fixing it, not making it worse, because otherwise the liability shifts to us. So we are busy looking at mechanisms which we will launch before go live, which will allow people to we hope identify that the 100% to 100% satisfaction that they are the right person, and then we will be able to migrate that wallet. If we can't, or if there's things that they can't do for us to ascertain that, then unfortunately we're not going to be able to help them. And I think, again, just please be careful. There are a lot of people out there pretending to help. Whenever someone mentions a problem, or I'm battling with this or I'm battling with that, there's always someone direct messaging them, trying to so-called help them, pretending to be part of BlockDAG, suggesting that they need to share their seed phrase so that they, in order to do something. And people, unfortunately, these scammers are very good. They're very well versed. They're very convincing. So be careful. We keep saying it in all the channels as well. Don't give out your seed phrase. No one from any of our channels will direct message anyone. So any direct message you get from anyone on all of the channels, it's not from us. Certainly not from me, and it's not from anyone on the team. So assume that they are someone else, not part of BlockDAG. It's that simple. There's a question around the 150% early bonus that we're giving now, and are we going to do something similar to people who bought miners early on? We're not, and the reason for that is we've never given bonuses on the miners themselves. So if you buy a miner, there's no bonus which gets you 2 or 3 or 4 miners. So we don't feel that it's not the same issue that we were trying to address in terms of the BDAG coin bonuses. What might happen, and we're busy looking at, is we're fairly close to the point where we need to fix final numbers, in which case we will start closing off the sales, and we'll probably also push the price up. So any later buyers might end up paying more. And I'm not saying that just to get everyone to run and buy. It's just that's the way that early buyers will have a slight advantage, is the last minute buyers will probably pay a higher price, but we haven't decided that for good yet. And we will announce that we're not, so it'll be made clear before it actually happens. So don't rush out and buy just because I've mentioned that. You're welcome to rush out and buy anyway, but not because of that statement. So the early investor bonus, I didn't mention it now, but I did pop up in the previous AMA, the schedule of bonuses. I know, Nick, you also covered that in one of your video sessions. It is part of the bonus vesting, so it's lock up for 1 year and then linear vesting for 1 year after that. So that's the early investor bonus is subject to that. And then obviously the lock-up investing on the Tap Miner is what we still will finalize and clarify.
Just for that mention, Ryan, and on the other question there, I think they're both related. There, as Antony just said, I did do a one-on-one video clearly outlining that that bonus structure and the lockup periods. If you haven't seen it, it should be on. It's not should. It is within the social channels. And what I might do tomorrow is actually, I think it's a good idea. I'll flick it into the YouTube channel and then just add a playlist called Q&A. That I'll add the existing 10 odd questions that I answered from the previous MMA, and I'm going to do this to these ones that have come through today. So make sure that you check that out tomorrow, and I'll put those specific questions in the YouTube channel, official channel, so you can get easy access to that. So absolutely answer those questions that have come through.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Nick. I mean, I think that's a great initiative. That. What we'll also be doing is updating a lot of FAQs within the support channel. So before you even get to the point where you log an issue, we hope to have a lot more FAQs there, from sort of simple questions all the way to things that are a little bit, well, that are more complicated. So we're busy building those up at the moment. So we're hoping that people don't necessarily have to ask questions because we have answers for them already. Just a plea to everyone. So our support channel, I mean, we've improved it in terms of going from an email-based support channel to running on Freshdesk now, which is the professional way of doing it. What we are finding, though, is people, and it's not just a few, it's a lot of people, and we try to address it through sort of the tech and how the tech can self-protect itself, but we're finding people, when they don't get quick responses, they're spamming us with multiple support requests, and in that case, Freshdesk isn't that great, in that we end up with, if it was going to be 10 emails, they'd all be in one chain, whereas with Freshdesk we get 10 separate support requests, and we have to deal with all of those, etc., etc. So if you ask a question, you're going to make it a lot worse if you keep asking the same question just because you haven't been responded to. We're certainly not going to respond quicker. If anything, I've told the team, if someone's spamming us with the same question, then that's almost lower priority. I mean, it's not really lower priority, but it doesn't help us. It doesn't help everyone else if some people spam us. So please just be careful around that. Give us time. We're doing the best we can. We've added, I think, 3 more people to that team. They're getting up to speed, and we're improving on the actual the FAQs in terms of that, and also the process. And we're also turning on some of the AI functionality, which will help us respond quicker, and also some level of automation in terms of responses going to frequently asked questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Antony. And I think just so the community knows, if you notice within the Freshdesk solution, there is a knowledge base. So what we actually are also doing is that there might be, fragmented Q&As in the wiki and everything else. So we're actually also going to put that in the knowledge base. So there's going to be a series of articles that you'll start to see in the knowledge base that will address a lot of those support questions that Antony said, as well as then, just adding to it as new questions are coming in that's not in the knowledge base. We're going to add to the knowledge base. So certainly are endeavoring to make all this information more accessible through multiple channels. So.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Another question, which it was actually one of the slides that I skipped through. I was going to come back to, just because of the order wasn't how I wanted to present it. But I mean, it's a question on everyone's mind. What happened with the bonuses? Obviously, it was mentioned in the previous AMA that by myself that bonuses were going to stop. Elephant in the room. My plan wasn't to ignore that. So there are a few initiatives on the go that haven't matured enough, and some that haven't worked out, that we were pulling together to start using as incentives, and they relate to other projects that are launching on us, other mechanisms, etc., and also some stuff around the tap miner, which obviously has become an issue in itself. So the intention of that was not to create a flurry of buying on the pretense that this was the last ever bonus. The plan was to transition that at testnet launch into a set of different promotional items that were not bonuses per se, but we were going to use. There were other things that we were bringing in. As I said, I was too quick off the draw there. I thought we were further on some of those initiatives. They weren't ready. We re-looked at that after the announcement, and as a team we decided that as much as it's something we're aiming for and we'd like to do, because it is something we need to get to, it was certainly premature on my side. I didn't spend the time talking to the guys that were delivering on some of that, which is partly tech and partly marketing and partly some relationship stuff as well happening. So I was quick off the draw, hoping that we were going to be ready, and we just weren't. So from my side, I apologize for that announcement. And as I said, the intention was never to just create again a flurry of buying based on that fact. We're still working towards that. I'm not promising anything right now, except the fact that we are transitioning. We're looking at different initiatives where we can achieve similar incentives through different mechanisms, where we don't give away bonuses like we have in the past. And that's what we need to get to. And I take that on mostly on my side in terms of mistake that was made. So yeah, apologies for me, and there's not much more I can say around that. The stated intention is that we get to that point. It's just taking us a bit longer. And part of some of the announcements that'll come out of Panama and other things that are happening you will see where they're coming from and where we were trying to get to, but it just they took longer than we'd hoped. I'm not sure, Nick, if you want to add anything to that. Otherwise,
no, I just feel agreed. I mean, I think these things, we're all looking to add value to the community, the early investors, and in endeavoring to structure these, I guess, sales mechanics that add value not only to the early investors that have believed in this project and continue to do so. And, I think one realizes that in structuring, fair, equitable value drivers, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. So, there's been a lot of conversation behind the scenes to put together these incentive structures that drive the community forward and obviously offer fair value across the board. So, the questions pertaining to launch price and calculations and the tokenomics and what have you, we're certainly working through these on a day-to-day basis to ensure that the value is created over time. And certainly if you see what we're doing, and I must stress this, Andy, if you look at how excited, well, I'm always excited, but if I calm down to a panic, I think what is so encouraging is to see the community from a development perspective engaging with us. And what does that mean now for yourselves on this call? It means we're building out, various solutions that are going to utilize our infrastructure, and that's going to add value. And, it does all boil down to the tokenomics, and it boils down to the revenue that's derived from the project as a whole, from protocol fees, from partnerships, and the like. That's all going to add to the token value over time. And, I don't know if you've seen the shift and how we're looking at engaging and how we're moving into this, engagement through our grant program, through the ambassador program, through the hackathons, etc. Obviously, this is what's been said before, but just to add to what Antony says, sometimes one misses the mark and we jump the gun because we're eager to showcase the forward-thinking vision, and we're getting better at that. So I'm encouraged as to where we're going, and we're certainly a unified team that is delivering on this value to the community. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I think, I mean, we make mistakes along the way. We correct as much as we can. I mean, I think what's important is we're always trying to do what's right for the team. Sorry, not the team. We're trying to do what's right for the project and the community.
Yes.
That's what I meant. And that's all we can promise. That's all we can do. I mean, ultimately, it's about launching a project that has value, that the world sees has value, that people hold on to the token or buy the token because they see value. And those are the things that we've got to get right. And the only way to get that right is through all these initiatives that Nick's mentioned, all the marketing where we show our value, all the grants program, the hackathons, and getting builders to build on us, to trust the technology, to see the sort of future value of being on BlockDAG versus being on other chains.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, we've got a lot to do. This project, it's a lot more complicated than you'd imagine in terms of all the moving parts, in terms of different geographies, trying to set up hackathons in different places, and in terms of all the things that we're doing. We are growing our team, but again, that takes time as well. It's not about just sort of throwing people at us. Since the last introduction of team members, well, the last one was Nick. Since then, we've had 3 people join, I think it is. I mean, we'll introduce them again, but the team keeps growing, and that's part of us building up our delivery capability, just to make sure we can get all these things done. There were just two other questions, and then it's probably time to finish off. So the one was again on the credit card. I've mentioned it a few times, and it's partly because we all in the office, we're all using the crypto credit card, and we all think that's an absolute game changer. Being able to spend in a traditional sense at the shops using effectively your mobile phone or a physical credit card if you have one, and spend your crypto that way. I mean, it's an absolute game changer. It brings crypto straight into the real world. So that's exactly what we want to give to our community. There are a lot of guys that do it. There's some good ones, there's some bad ones. So we're not going to be the only ones, but certainly we want to provide that to our community with certain benefits for larger holders, for community members, for people who use the card more. So we'll make sure there's sort of synergies, and there's rebates and whatever else we can do around that. But we're still working on that. It's a complicated project. There's licensing and there's a lot of other stuff, and it isn't the core of launching our blockchain. So we've got to be careful that we don't take our eye off the ball, which we have done with things like Tap Miner. So so that's just taking time. I can't give you more for now, but we've got 3 suppliers that are very keen to work with us, and this is where having a massive community is a massive plus for us. The suppliers are super keen to work with us because we can show that we've got a community, and a community that would no doubt be very keen on using credit cards or crypto credit card. There are a lot of questions here. We'll also go through them and answer. I mean, as Nick said, he'll answer some that we haven't got to. Nick, are there any other? Here's an interesting one.
I think for me.
Sorry, there's a bit of a delay here. Will BlockDAG collaborate with any government? I think, like most things in business and in life, you do have to crawl before you walk, before you run, etc. So from one perspective, we're not at the stage where we'd be able to have meaningful conversations with government. I think even trying to have those right now would be preemptive or premature. And then the other question is, do we want to be having conversation with government? Where does that take us? What does that do to us as a chain? How does that change our positioning? So there's a lot of questions around that. So I think the simple answer is no. It's something we've talked about, and we will relook at who else do we work with? Is it government? Is it corporates? Et cetera, et cetera. But those are questions for another day.
Yeah, I certainly can answer those in these updated day-to-day talks. And Antony, as you said, one is open for business with regards to engaging with relevant parties, and there's obviously a deal flow and a pipeline and a process to that. We've heard this government question quite a bit, and that would mean quite a very varied discussion, as opposed to obviously one where we're building a pipeline with businesses, development communities, and certainly if it warrants a discussion within that sphere, that will come in time.
Okay, great. I think, Nick, are you able to turn the blur off, the background blur off your camera? And then everyone's saying, can they have another look at the X10?
Another peekaroo.
Yeah, just if you turn off that background.
I really am sorry. I think I need a new MacBook. I don't know what happened today, but I'll have to put a request in for one. Let me just see how to do that, because it's certainly, it's very irritating, and I apologize to everyone for that. Sorry if I'm looking at the screens. I don't also have my contacts in tonight. I've just turned it off. Apply, adjust. Let's plug my new miner back in. Just hold on.
So obviously there's a lot of things that we can't demo. I mean, it's not sort of end to end with all the bells and whistles.
Logging onto the app now too. Yeah, so I can just log onto the app on my phone, as you can see. Yeah. So as you know, I'm on my phone. I think that's the key here. I'm mining, and then at the same time, there we go. For everybody to see, I think I've heard 20 cents as we've been talking for mining, and as we mentioned. These are just the first batches that have come out of production, and these are going to be brushed aluminium, and the depth is a little bit more, but it's a beautiful end-to-end screen. It's going to have a few functionalities, not so, Antony, which is going to add value more so than just obviously the device itself and its capabilities. But as you can see, very, very robust device. I've just plugged it into my computer, and you can plug it into, a charging unit, etc. And there's also going to be navigation centered around the device itself. It might even tell the time, Antony. We've got a few tricks that we're going to be adding to this device, so it's got a lot of utility other than just obviously seeing on the screen how many tokens and obviously how much value you've generated. And as you can see, it's in coordination, because obviously I've got a test version of both. It's in parallel to both, so very, very exciting.
Yeah, very cool. So just to mention, it's a touch screen, so there will be functionality. As Nick said, we might even get it to tell the time. But other than that, we're hoping, and I'm not sure how far they are, but if we can link it to wallets, etc., and obviously there's security and that sort of thing comes in. But if we can link it to wallets, you can use it to actually see your BDAG holding, etc. So there's some quite cool things to do, which makes it sort of a mini explorer in terms of your wallet, for instance. And then there'll be some other screens which show sort of mining statistics, how much you've mined today, yesterday, the last month, etc. So I mean, it's a cool. The idea is it's a cool device. It pairs with your X1 on the phone, and you get to mine a whole lot more. And it looks cool, and you can show your friends, etc. And I think, and that's what we'll achieve with that. I think, I mean, we're way over time. So maybe I think let's leave it there. We'll look through the questions, and Nick can address some of those separately. But yeah, just from my side, just want to say thanks everyone for joining. Or Nick seems to have disappeared. Yeah, thanks very much for joining. Appreciate everyone's time again. We look forward to sharing more in future AMAs. There's more information that we do need to come back to you with. So I acknowledge that, and we'll do that as soon as we can in terms of the licensing side, the tap miner side. So those we will revert. And then also the changes around the bonuses in terms of how that will unfold. So those are three things that is on my homework plate. Otherwise, again, thank you very much. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. And I wish you good night.